right, we got Valentina Shevchenko taking on Julianna Pena in the main event here. Shevchenko is a minus 120 favorite. Comeback on Pena, plus 100. This line is somewhat fluctuated. Like last week, I think I saw Shevchenko as high as plus 100, so she was actually the slight underdog to Pena. I don't understand the line at all, to be perfectly honest. I think Shevchenko is just too mobile, is going to be able to pop in and out. And then when Pena moves forward, she's going to do what she did against Holly Holm. Holly Holm, who's sitting actually right behind Cody's head right there, is that she's going to cut off on an angle and land that right counter. Like she did it over and over and over and over to a much better striker, a much more crafty and aware person on the feet. I think Pena has the one advantage of being really big and kind of crazy in a sense that like she's just so aggressive in her pursuit. But we look at some of the fights, like her fight against Jessica Ai, where she gets tagged a whole bunch until she's able to take the fight to the ground. Basically, any of her fights, when they're on the feet, she is getting tagged, and now she's taking on by far the best striker she's ever faced in her life. She does have the size advantage. Her path to victory is take her down, hold her down. But Shevchenko has shown that she's not exactly a slouch on the ground. She may not be, throwing up submission attempts or anything, but she's good enough to survive and exist down there if she gets caught there. But I think game plan for Shevchenko is very similar to what she did against Holm. Let her opponent come towards her, pick her off on the way in, and I really I got it at minus 110. The other night, loaded up pretty big. Like, this is an opportunity, I think, to make some money. It seems on paper pretty easy to me.
I agree with Pena when you're talking about her path to victory. That's exactly it. Get this girl down, get on top of her. But we've seen Shevchenko on the bottom with a girl like Amanda Nunes, who's even bigger than Pena and much better on the ground than Pena. And if she can survive those spots, get up and in the third round even take her down and put her in some dangerous spots of her own, she's very good on the ground. She's able to survive long enough. I think the biggest key factor here is that it's 5 rounds. When you look at Julianna Pena's last fight over Kat Zingano, she does not start well. She loses the first round to Kat Zingano, and then she rallies back to wins 2 and 3. By the end, she looks pretty fatigued. It's only a 3-round fight. She's more or less exhausted, but she's done enough to get that win over Kat Zingano. Important to note here that was Kat Zingano's first fight in 17 months. Since losing to Ronda Rousey and then getting subsequent knee surgeries, she ends up in that spot.
And she had
no wonder she had no gas. Yeah, she put on a bunch of weight.
Zingano put a ton of weight. It was more of a fight for her just to basically get down to the 135-pound limit.
Yeah, so no wonder this girl's going to get tired. But skill for skill-wise in that first round, before she got tired, she was the better fighter. Mm-hmm. And I think with Pena, she's big, she's strong, she gets you on the ground, she works you, and we see that in all of her fights. Jessica Ai, eventually she's going to get her down. And then girls that are not on her level, like Jessica Rakoczy or
Dudieva.
Miliana Dudieva.
Yeah, she runs through them, but
you get through them.
Shevchenko would also run through those.
Right. Now you look at Shevchenko's last performance against Holly Holm. It's a picture-perfect fight. It's a 5-round shutout against the former world champion. And that's exactly it. It's 5 rounds. She never looks fatigued once during those course of the 5 rounds. Now the last important thing is that we know with Shevchenko, she's always moving her camp around. That's always just been like something that she does throughout her career. And if you watch this Road to the Octagon stuff, or if you follow her on social media, she's been in Colorado for quite some time now. Mm-hmm. And she's putting in rounds with quality training partners in Colorado, getting used to that altitude. Julianna Pena, meanwhile, has split from Sick Jitsu. She's no longer affiliated with that gym, and she's now in
Chicago.
She's now full-time in Chicago.
Whereas if you're in Sick Jitsu, I'm not sure about the
no altitude, but at least it's all...
Well, it's in Washington, which is mountains.
Yeah, but I don't know what the altitude would be in comparison to Colorado. The thing is, when you look at Sick Jitsu and you look at the style of all their fighters, big, heavy, grinding type, good grapplers, right? That's her mold. That's where she's from. Yeah. She fights the way she does because of the people she's surrounded herself and the coaches she's surrounded herself. So she may tell you, oh, my jiu-jitsu is better than it's ever been because now I'm working with this new guy. But that's exactly it. You're working with some new guy. And in her own words, she's like, oh, I'm working on the basics, because he says basics win fights. Basics do win fights against Jessica Rakoczy and Miliana Dudieva. Mm-hmm. Now that you're getting Shevchenko in 5 rounds, I don't think it favors towards her. So
who has an absolute, probably the most complete skill set out of anybody.
You were talking about that just counter the right hand. She can counter the right hand with the spinning back. Who counters a right hand with the spinning back fist timed in? She might be the best striker in the division. And when you look back at even her debut against Sarah Kaufman, people are thinking the same thing. Well, Kaufman's a good kickboxer, and she's a strong, rugged, heavy girl. Nobody expected Shevchenko to go down there and take down Kaufman and dominate her on the ground, but she did just
I think she's a black belt in judo or
black belt in judo,
like,
black belt in
you
kickboxing.
You look at her history and it's
yeah.
just like, oh, she's been a lifelong martial artist in everything.
And her sister's a lifelong martial artist. That's the Lion Fights champion. And her mother's a lifelong martial artist. And her coach is a lifelong martial artist who not only that, gets shot and returns fire and then still coaches her next fight and the rest of her training camp. They're a badass group of people, these Kyrgyzstan fighters. And no, I'm really happy for her. I think she's got big things lined up for her.
My only concern is the line. The lot in the sense, and not in the sense of just like, I don't know. I even put out like a little disclaimer. I said, who's betting on Pena on Twitter? Who's betting on Pena this weekend? Reveal yourself. Crickets.
Yeah, of course.
How is this line still staying at -20? Who is putting the money on there? And like, is this some sort of trap that the books are setting up? I can't overthink these types of things because I felt the same way about Paul Daly last week. I was going, well, if Brennan Ward gets into a stand-up war with Paul Daly, he's going to get murked. And he did get murked, and it all worked out in my favor in that sense. But I was also questioning that line with Brennan Ward and Paul Daly, going like, this should be like, I think this should be at least -200 Shevchenko.
I think the biggest thing there is that Shevchenko's not extremely vocal, and Julianna Pena very much so is. She'll go out there and be like, Ronda's dodging me. Oh my God, this person's dodging me. Oh my God, where's my title shot? Oh my God, this bouncer's not letting me in the bar. she stays in the public perception. She stays in your mind because you're like, oh, I hear from her all the time, and she's talking about how nobody wants to fight her and how she's the top girl in the division. You go on her Twitter and write in her, little blurb, she's like, #1 female fighter in the world. It's like, you're actually not. You haven't proven that. You're probably ranked 4th, but she believes that. There's that belief. And I think if you're a Julianna Pena fan, which we work with some Julianna Pena fans, they're behind her 100%. And we talked about the path to victory being there, and that's what they're seeing clearly. She is bigger than Shevchenko. Shevchenko should be fighting at 125 pounds, but the division doesn't exist. Now you got Pena, who's big, who could probably fight at 45 and probably eventually will fight at 45. If she goes in there and she gets her down, and we've seen girls take Shevchenko down before, and holds her down for 3 of the 5 rounds, she can win. And that's why if it was a 3-round fight, I might be leaning towards it. I wouldn't, totally. But I might be. But in a 5-round fight, I think that's the key to victory here, and that's why Shevchenko should be a bigger favorite than she perhaps is.